So much for coming out to Wine and Wealth. On today, I appreciate it. It's a Thursday evening. You could be anywhere. I feel like I'm in church. You could be anywhere, but you chose to be here with us today. And so I appreciate it. My name is Alicia Levels Moore, and I'm so excited to be with you all. This is National Small Business Week. So this week across the country, we are honoring and celebrating small businesses, but more specifically, we wanted to make sure that we could honor, support, encourage, uplift, expose, and educate our small business owners right here in Birmingham. So thank you guys so much for coming out. So this conversation this evening, we're talking about money, we're talking about mindset, we're talking about some wealth strategies, and really, we're going to talk about the things that you want to talk about as well. So I don't know about y'all, but there are so many things going on virtually, so many things going on in person, and you'll go and you're like, now what did I learn? What did they talk about? I know I got drunk, but I don't remember nothing else, right? So, but we want to make sure that when you leave out of here today, that you have some tangible things that you can take away from the conversation, but as well, we want you to be able to connect with one another and also connect with our guest speakers. So without further ado, I will let them introduce themselves. So Isaac, if you could tell the people who you are, what you do, and all of your magic.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Isaac Cooper. I am the CEO of IMC Financial Consulting. We're a boutique consulting firm down in downtown Inslee. I don't know if y'all know where that is, on the west side of Birmingham.
West side?
That's right. It is the best side.
Okay.
Been in the financial industry about a decade now. What led us starting our practice was essentially we were at a Fortune 100 company. We were the only black in the state of Alabama. And it was less about the representation with the company, but it was more about their ability to learn more about our culture, to be able to tie in the resources that's necessary to be able to build wealth, but also the education to make sure that we know how to maintain it, transfer it, and preserve it and grow it as well. So excited to be here. Thank you for your leadership, Alicia, and looking forward to our conversation tonight.
For sure. Thank you, Isaac. Dr. Nicole. Don't forget the doctor. Go ahead.
Well, good evening, everyone. I know it's Cinco de Mayo, so we made sure there's some margaritas and everything else as you're getting this financial knowledge, just to help loosen you up so we can have some transparent conversations. I think when it comes to having conversations around money, sometimes we get a little tight. We put masks on. We don't ask questions because of embarrassment. So Alicia was kind enough to make all of you take a glass of something before we got started. So
I'm still a woman of the cloth. Amen.
Still a woman of the cloth. Yes. So just to give you a little background about me, I'm Dr. Nicole Garner Scott. I drove in from Atlanta this morning, and that is where my office is based. But I have quite a few clients in Birmingham, and just love what Birmingham is doing. Over the year, because when you live here, you get used to it, right? Everyone where they live, you get used to it. But every time I come back and forth, I'm seeing the growth, I'm seeing the progression, I'm seeing so many things transpiring. So if you have taken Birmingham for granted, I hope this event reignites your fire in the city. People like Alicia, I'm gonna give her flowers right now. Because does everybody know Alicia just had a little baby? and she's up here snatched, and she's doing whole events and everything else. I love giving women their flowers in the process of all of that. So thank you, Alicia, in regards to putting this on and having us involved. A little bit about my practice. I'm very focused on planning from an integrative perspective. So a lot of times, just to give an analogy, I'll meet individuals and they have certain tools all over the place, but they don't understand how these tools are supposed to work with each other. They don't understand why they have these tools. They don't understand if they're in a good tool or not in a good tool. Just a lot of these different things transpiring. And so I started to see that there was a large gap on wealth building for the long run. Everyone in here, is generational wealth a part of your belief system? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right, so we say that, but what does it really mean? And that's some of what we're going to talk about today. Like, how do you really get to generational wealth? How do you really do legacy planning? How do you, all the work that you're doing, all the days you're waking up and making things happen, how are you making sure that passes down to the next generation? And how are you even making sure that you're taking care of you now and you're taking care of you in the future? So when I see people gather, we're going to continue to normalize these type of conversations. We talk about everything else under the sun. We talk about our kids, we talk about our marriages, we talk about all these things. But when we get a chance to come together, why aren't we talking about money more? Why is that still so taboo in so many places? So today it is mask off. Can everybody promise me that?
Yes, girl.
It's mask off. We're gonna get transparent with each other. We're gonna have some real conversation. Brother Isaac's up here. He's gonna be preaching a little bit for today. So we're gonna let all of that happen and just really be open to what transpires today.
Cool. Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate that. So, like I said, I want you guys to prepare yourselves to talk. All right, so we're gonna do some introductions, y'all. We're gonna do some introductions. So because it's an intimate crowd, we'll be able to go around. I want you guys to give me your name, your business or industry. So I was telling my new friend over here, I hate when I go places and the first thing people ask me is, well, what do you do? For me, it feels like people are trying to figure out where to place you, right? How much value they should add. So I like to ask people, what's your name? What are you passionate about? You know what I'm saying? What do you want to add? What area do you want to add value to? So if you guys could give us your name, whatever you're passionate, whatever area you're adding value to, and one thing that you hope to gain from tonight or one thing you want to learn about. All right? So we're going to snap. Is that all right? Is that all right? All right. We'll start right here. So give us your name, what you're passionate about, what you hope to learn this evening.
Wow. Talk about being put on the spot.
Come on now, listen.
Come on now.
Hey everyone, I'm Jaquan Winters. I'm actually from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I have the opportunity to really serve the community in two capacities. So, first one is I'm a realtor, which is, I tell people that's what put food on the table. But what I'm passionate about is youth and children, youth suicide prevention. So, I also manage a nonprofit for youth suicide prevention in Tuscaloosa. And I won't get into all of that, but I'm happy to be here. One thing that I look to just learn and or gain from this event is just expanding my network and meeting people and learning more about financial literacy and such. Thank you all.
Awesome. That was a great job. I don't know what she was tripping about. Man, what?
Hi everyone, my name is Amber Underwood. I am a therapist by nature, passionate about children and specifically women and substance abuse, trying to heal from childhood trauma and recognizing that stems from the music or using substances. What I want to learn tonight is, I know the thing is said wealth and abundance, so learning how to let go of that scarcity mindset.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you can embrace the abundant mindset.
All right, Amber, you want to preach tonight, I see. All right, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Adrian, and I am a psychiatric social worker for UAB. Social work is my passion.
Okay.
I started a nonprofit called the Black Boomerang Effect, where I specifically work with men who've been incarcerated. I have a passion for recidivism and reentry.
Yeah.
With that, my end goal is to be a program developer on the national scale for recidivism and reentry, and I have a program that I'm developing, and with the grace of God, tomorrow I'll get to actually run that program here in Birmingham.
Awesome.
And I also have an LLC
Talk to
because
me.
I'm passionate about hair. I love hair. I've been doing hair for women who've experienced hair loss for about 10 years, but I'm not professionally licensed. So what I decided to do was get licensed and then create wigs for these women, professional women, because hair attention and hair loss is one of the barriers of feeling confident and being comfortable in your own skin, especially being a professional Black woman. So that's my target audience, and I'm here to figure out how to expand my network and my resources.
Go ahead. Hey, Maisha. Right. Hey, Maisha, go ahead. Introduce yourself. You good?
Good evening, I'm Maisha Hutchinson. I am a lifelong resident of Birmingham, specifically the Woodlawn community. I'm here first of all supporting my neighbor, Miss Alicia Lovelace Moore. But what I am passionate about, I am passionate about people. I am passionate about community. Professionally, I am a governmental affairs specialist. I can say that.
Yes,
That's right.
yes, you are.
Yeah,
Yes, you
yeah.
are.
The
That's
federal
right.
level and the municipal government level. By night, my gig work, and most of the time it's full-time, is actually I am the founder and owner of MBA Strategies, which is a consulting firm, and we specialize in helping folks organize themselves in the realm of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and community engagement. So equity. Thank you for having me tonight, and I hope to learn a little bit here, a little bit before I have to tip out about generational wealth, building that, and expanding your network and your business. Because ultimately, we have to become owners also need to be create generational wealth, and we do that through ownership.
Amen.
Love it.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Michelle Coley. I'm an Allstate agent here in Alabama. I have an agency in Tuscaloosa and one in Hoover. I'm the only African-American female Allstate agent in the state of Alabama. So that's my claim to fame.
Yes.
What am I passionate about? I'm passionate about small business. I'm passionate about women, ownership, and helping others to establish their business and to do it correctly. I have another business that I do called Boss Studios, where I provide studio suites for people in the health and beauty industry so that they can have their own business inside of this space. And they start out, it's like an incubator where you rent from me, you grow your business, and hopefully you can go on and have your own business. And so to date, we've had 3 people come in. We have like 11 booths. So 3 people started with me and now have their own space. So that's what I'm passionate about. We do a lot in Tuscaloosa, and so now I'm trying to move into the Birmingham area. I've joined the Hoover Chamber, Birmingham Realtors, and so I came here to meet a CPA. She's gonna tell her story, but she's a unicorn, y'all. She's a unicorn. I have been looking for a black CPA. I've been literally looking all over the country, and so she happened to come to Tuscaloosa and to an event that we were having there with the chamber, and we met her. Jaquan met her and told me about her. I said, we got the pilgrimage to Birmingham to meet her.
Yeah.
And so that's what I came for, and I have exchanged numbers with her and met her, and I'm looking forward to what you guys have to say.
That's great.
Thank you so
I
much.
love that.
Everyone, my name is Kayla. I'm currently a UAB nursing student.
Okay.
Okay, I guess some of the things I'm passionate about would be women's ministry, just healing from past traumas and stuff like that. Something else I'm passionate about would be writing poetry, specifically Christian poetry. And something that I would like to learn today would be financial literacy. I feel like I know the bare minimum as a college student. So,
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Danielle Lee. I currently work in government, but I went to school for engineering, and I recently, literally recently, maybe a month ago, officially started a midday core business. And so I think one of the things I would like to learn today is to make sure that I get all the information to start my business with a solid financial foundation, a strategy to make sure that I stay on the right path with all of those smiling nature.
Cool. Thank you.
My name is Kimberly Braden. I do several things. I work for UAB in community engagement for school medicine. And I also have Kimberly Braden Consulting, where I have kind of put that on hold temporarily as I get my feet wet with the job at UAB. I've only been there about 2 years. And so I'm starting my consulting business back up. I'm doing mainly events for nonprofits, golf tournaments, that kind of thing. And also we have a family business called AG360 LLC. We recently got the contract for the VA hospital here for transportation. So
Awesome.
trying to get that off the ground and make sure that it goes like it needs to go. So 5-year contract. So this is my first deal in
great.
transportation.
That's
So
good.
Congratulations.
That's exactly
and
right.
my family that lives in Atlanta has been doing that for a while.
audio
So
in
they
here.
have a lot of experience in it in the Jonesboro area, the Jonesboro schools, and non-emergency transport is the next thing we're looking to bring in.
That's good.
That's exciting. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Unicorn, please tell us more. I'm just playing, girl. I play too much. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Thank you so much. I'm Lakeithia of Peer CPA and Advisors. One of my mottos that I'm passionate about is profit is a business solution. So I work with, yeah, that's what I'm saying. We got to do the project.
That's right. That's right.
So I work with business owners year round. I develop trusted relationships. And I'm very passionate about the city of Birmingham. I am a Birmingham business owner, so I'm looking for, I like to participate in things that show we're growing and to be a part of the conversation. So thank you.
Cool. Thank y'all so much. Can y'all, okay, y'all can clap now. Can y'all give yourselves a round of applause for for showing up, right, and for being open and courageous to share. Most people don't even like speaking. And then, too, we did a lot of different events this week. One of the events was on communication. We actually had that today. And so I just want to just remind you all, I know there's a lot of conversation around how do you pitch? How do you do this? Y'all just did that right now in this moment. So kudos to y'all. I'm excited. So let's jump into this conversation with Isaac and Nicole, Dr. Nicole. Put the doctor.
Just call me Nicole.
No, I know, girl. You know, just like I'm glad we had a chance to read the room because I want to make sure that we talk about things that are important to what they want to hear about. And so it sounds like we have a lot of people wanting to understand about financial literacy, just the minimum. And so that kind of correlates with building your money team, right? What are the things you need to think about? But then also we heard a lot of things about mindset, right? Mindset. So can we talk a little bit about how do we know generational wealth is a thing, like you just made mention of, but the key component, and you talk about this a lot too, Isaac, is your mindset, right? Always planning, always thinking. So can y'all tell us a little bit about what are some things that people need to do before we can even get into the generational wealth conversation? What are some things we can do with our minds and how we relate to money, our relationship to money? Because sometimes it can be scary. Most of us in our families never had it. We might be the first to have it, and you don't want to mess it up. That's right. You know, so one, you hold on to it. I'm not investing nothing. I ain't, you know. So can you guys kind of share your thoughts around just some things that we need to think about when it comes to the money mindset to break into generational wealth?
So when it comes to that fear that you're talking about, that a lot of us have when it comes to dealing with money, a lot of that fear is passed down generationally, right? And so a lot of that trauma has been taught to us from youth. And if we really dig into why we have those fears, when you think of what was the insurance man to your grandparents, right? It was a sleazy guy that came around with a briefcase that you never knew what was really going to happen. When it was time for money to transpire, you couldn't find them. What were banks to your grandparents?
The mattress.
Right,
Yeah.
the mattress. And hopefully your grandbabies didn't come and steal your money. What was financial planning when past generations only dealt from survival mode? Right, you held on to every dollar as much as you could because you didn't know if it was going to be there tomorrow, etc. So how you're thinking about money, a lot of that has been passed down generationally to you. So once you start to understand, why did my grandmother think that way? Why do my parents think that way? Why do people around me think that way? What was the basis of that thought process? Then you can start to know how this advice might no longer be serving you, too. Another thing as well, when it comes to who we get a lot of our financial advice from, typically we're getting our financial advice from people who only know as much as we do, right? Like, if we're very honest with it, we're asking our friends, we're asking Google, and we're finding that one person who kind of knows money in our circle, and we're like, so girl, what do you think about this? But because we have dealt with money since we were young, you've touched money since you were 1-2 years old, money is in your memories from youth. You feel like, I know money. I've dealt with money my whole life, but we have not explored into those other aspects of finance to really understand the different levels to it, the different opportunities, how money is just a tool. And lastly, I'm going to say, sometimes we give money too much credit too, right? When we think about the myths that we deal with money, and I would love for you guys just to throw out some myths that you grow up. Now those myths, you've come in your adulthood and you understand those myths were just myths. But what were some things that you grew up saying? Money's evil? Money don't grow on trees. When it rains, it pours. We've seen our mothers and our fathers have to have 27 jobs, right? Where you felt like, if I don't burn myself to the ground, I'm not going to figure out how to win financially. All of these myths are deeply ingrained. And even if you feel like you started to free yourself from some of that, when you really look at how you're prioritizing your financial decisions and behavior, a lot of it still leads back to that place of fear. So I would definitely say, from a mindset standpoint, first, recognizing that, right? Recognizing how your decisions are showing up in life. How is your debt showing up in life, right? It's probably from some type of fear that's utilizing that. How does being burned out show up for you? I did an interview with Essence where I talked about how burnout, especially for women, is when most of us make our worst financial decisions, right? When we're tired of everything, when everyone's stressing us out, when everything is feeling like just too much, that's typically when you're like, well, shoot, I don't care anymore. I'm gonna take this last couple dollars and figure out how to make myself happy. That's where a lot of some of our worst decisions come, in that state of burnout. So understanding from a mindset perspective why those decisions are that you're making, and then starting to figure out how to heal that. Because you can have the best advisors, you can have the best financial team, you can have the best CPA. But if you don't heal in some of those areas, you're going to listen, and then you're going to go back and undo a lot of that anyway.
I believe that deserves some snaps and claps.
I was like, get it
for
together.
sure, yeah. And there's going to be a few things that I'm going to share that's going to be an echo. Ultimately, when we think about our mindset, the first thing we have to see is, all right, what did we inherit, right? So just like playing sports or even anything that requires equipment, right? The condition of that equipment is going to dictate how we use that equipment. And so oftentimes, due to our mindset being intangible, we don't see it as something that we can, that's a utility, right? And so with money, and even it really doesn't matter who we speak to. If you make $20,000 a year, $200,000 a year, $500,000 a year, $5 million, dollars a month, right? Like, and we've seen those different type of situations. The first thing we have to get an understanding of is like, what's your mindset? What's your first memory of money? When were you introduced to money? And that's going to dictate a lot of how we use money today. And so survival mode is there are actually skill sets that we develop as Black people when we're in survival mode. And we can actually still use those skill sets. We just got to leave the mindset, right? And so when we shift from surviving to thriving, we have to recognize that the resources that we probably would like may not be here today, but we have to still be creative as business owners. We still have to think about the future as planners if we have assets or other heartbeats that rely on our decision making. So our ability to be able to see something that's not physically here is really necessary for us to be able to make sure that we have that thriving mindset, because survival mode is more so of looking at what you have right now and seeing that it's not enough and then making decisions in that short-term time frame. Now, you got to pay bills, you got to put gas in your vehicle, but at the same time, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you have to lock in on what it is that you see for the future and then make sure that you make the decisions today that get you there, but you cannot allow the two things that is so interesting, and I'm going to be quiet because I'll get into a Kanye rant. There's two things that is a unique relationship, and it's your emotions and money, right? On one hand, you have to acknowledge your emotions. You can't ignore it. You have to acknowledge it, but you can't give it authority. But on the other hand, when it comes to emotions, typically the emotions we enjoy are tied to things that cost money. I had certain emotions when I delivered my wife some flowers. I would like to do that every day, but I don't want to pay for that every day, right? And so there's certain things, there's food that we enjoy, there is trips that we like to take, right? That cost money that is tied to an emotion. So we have to acknowledge that emotion and not try to, set it to the side. We just can't give it authority. And so when we manage our money and also manage our mindset, we just have to make sure we put our emotions in the proper place.
That's good.
Well, thank you for sharing. And then too, guys, like at any moment, if you have any questions, any thoughts, like, listen, this is a Kumbaya circle. So y'all can feel free to kind of be engaged in the conversation as well. I think one of the things to point out that's so important is when we talk about generational wealth, it means, to your point, that it's future forward. Yeah. And I think we're the next generation where we actually have the privilege to think forward. Yeah. Right? So like before us, people were surviving out of the necessity of the circumstance, out of the culture, out of societal, they were surviving. So now we're a generation where we get an opportunity to think and have a mindset for the long game. And so one of the things we talked about before was the money team. Most of the time when y'all hear money team, for me, I think of Floyd Mayweather. Okay? You know what I mean? And I'm like, listen, he got a bag. You know what I mean? I don't have money team money, not yet.
That's right. That's right.
Right? You know what I mean? So I don't need an accountant. I don't need a CPA. Like, I don't need a financial advisor. I don't know how to utilize it. I just need insurance when I die, right? Mm-hmm. That's it. So when we talk about, okay, now we're in a position as entrepreneurs to think a little bit longer, mm-hmm. to think a little more future forward. But what does that mean in regard to who we should have on our team, regardless of socioeconomic status, right? So some of us might be where we want to be. Most of us are on our way. We're ascending there. But one of the things I tell a lot of people when I'm consulting is begin with the end in mind, mm-hmm. right? Most of the time I say begin with scale in mind. Right. So wherever you want to go, don't just do what you need to do for right now. I want you to start creating the things that you need to go where you're trying to get. Mm-hmm. So, okay, we're talking about generational wealth. We know we're in a place where we can now think future forward. So who should we have on our team? Who should we contact? Who should we talk to? What are the things? Because, okay, I got an extra little $5,000 in the month. I'm cute. Okay, what do I do with that? Right? I'm a business owner. What do I know most of the time I need to put that back into my business. But there are some different people we need to have on the team to help us get where we're trying to go. So what will you guys say in regard to our money team? Who do we need to have? How do we build those things out? Who's the first one? And how do we add that into our budget? Like, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I'll speak to that first off. One thing that you'll see that's a little bit different about this room is you have a few people in here in finance, and what do we all have in common? We black. We black. If you put this on a national scale, you're not going to see this a lot, right? Just what Michelle was saying about, give me your name again. Lakeithia. Lakeithia is a unicorn because you don't see high-level CPAs common, that are black. Less than 3%. In the country.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
But what's even more key is a lot of people don't even know why they need a CPA. Mm-hmm. So the demand in our community is not even there because most people feel like, I got my cousin that could do my taxes, mm-hmm. So I'm good. Or I got TurboTax, I just went to the store, I got my new software, etc. Not even understanding the need for some high-level strategy planning. When you think of financial advisors, very few are African American, right? Very few are black. But let me tell you what, even less are black women. It's a group of us, we get together. We all do the same thing, but we put each other up to the highest level because it's hard. It is hard to talk to our communities about money. As soon as I say I'm in finance space, they be like, oh, okay. But let me say that, I'm in the beauty space. They be like, girl, you can come over. Financial, they be like, what you want to talk about?
Right.
So even starting there, finding individuals that don't operate from giving you advice from a biased standpoint. What even got me into this space is because I started really delving down into the space of finance and realized how many biases exist from the point of how people are giving information. I went to a conference one time with a woman who's very big in the financial space. This woman stood up and said, I would like to get your advice. Right now, I have a very toxic relationship with my mother because she only calls me when she needs to borrow money. And I love my mother, etc., and I don't know what to do. And the advisor said, well, you should cut your mother off, right? That was her first, didn't give two thoughts about it. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know what community you in, but in our communities, we don't cut mom off. That's not even, you gave her advice that she'll never even use, right? She immediately shut down. And I found her in the hallway after that, and I said, you asked the wrong question to the wrong person. This was a therapy question. We have to get to the root of, you and your mother have to get past the toxic part of the relationship, or you have to be okay that maybe it can't be reached in that type of way. But you asked someone who wasn't capable of seeing the cultural sensitivity in this scenario. And the more I started going to places, and the more I started dealing with people in high-level wealth, I was like, there's no cultural sensitivity. Isaac made such a good point when he said that the equipment that's passed down, right? So many of the advisors in my space are like, what's the point of talking to people about insurance? Everybody has insurance. And I'd be like, no, they don't.
Well, you laugh so hard.
I'd be like, no, they don't. And they'd be like, Nicole, you shouldn't even have that conversation. I'd be like, okay, wow. Right, and so just like how he said, the background of that. So one, finding you, me and Isaac can self-plug ourselves, but we don't have to. You need to use the spirit of discernment to find people who have a teaching spirit. You need to find people who have a mission to doing this. That's how you start with building your financial team, first and foremost. Yes.
How? Like, because that's a rare person.
It is.
Black, sensitive, discern, is interested in being a teacher.
Yeah.
Because some of us know that is a need that we have, right? And we know that we need to find a prototype in that way. We just don't have the steps to kind of target and find that person. This might not necessarily be the space to kind of figure that out. But
Yeah, well, I'll give you.
Yeah, and I got to respond.
I'll definitely say this. When it comes to seeing those people out in the community, this is never stuff we have to do, right? So this is a good way to start finding those people. Now, I don't make money from coming out and doing this event. It is completely out of my heart. Let me figure out ways to connect with my people. I have gotten resources, understanding, high-level information, licenses, all the different things that I have gotten resources that I feel like it is my duty to spread this information. So when you see people out in the community, when you see them taking the extra step to bring this type of information to the masses, I feel like that's a great place to start. Also, too, our community, like how Michelle shouted you out, we got to do more of that too.
Yeah, that's right.
When you find good people that you're working with, when you find an Alicia, when you find realtors, when you find a good DJ, I don't know what it is where sometimes we feel like I'm gonna hold on to this person because I don't want everybody using them, and then I can't use them, and then I can't get them on the phone. You were supposed to be my event planner, now you don't have time for me. Isn't the goal? Isn't the goal to see this? That's abundance mindset. Scarcity mindset makes us hold on to resources like there's not more than enough. Abundance mindset says this will never run out. It will never. I will tell you about Alicia from the time to the time, because Alicia, in my mind, Alicia will always have time for me because it's abundance mindset. An abundance mindset is not operating from the space of running out. So I think it's our duty to share these good things, to put these things out, to make all of that. We're going to answer your question, but I wanted Isaac to, because he had something to ask.
Yeah, it was, and it's a great question, especially when we talk about putting together a team, because there's going to be different phases of your business to where you may not have resources, but you still need access to a professional. And then there's phases of your business as you grow to where you do have resources, where we like to tell our clients, you got to outsource your ignorance, right? So it is, there's less than, and I'll use a few umbrella statistics. So CFP is another statistic, Certified Financial Professional, which is another, Certified Financial Planner, which is another, I would say a three-letter, one of them alphabet boys that we recognize in the financial industry that we respect. I want to say it's less than 1 or 2% across the country. But within the financial industry itself, one of the things about for-profit entities, they want to focus on making money, period, right? And unfortunately, our group, our audience, black folks, black individuals, black business owners, we have yet to be seen as an asset. That's why lending is so difficult, right? I don't know if they're going to pay me back. They don't got their documents in place. They don't even know what an S-Corp is. They're sending me statements through Cash App, right? So there is a view, unfortunately, that they have is incomplete in regards of our capabilities, our value add in our how we can exponentialize whatever service, whatever experience, whatever product that we're providing. So unfortunately, black individuals, if they are with a bank, a financial institution, if they are with an insurance company that has access to investment products, or if they're with an investment company that has access to insurance products, that business model is not for us to be educated, unfortunately. And so it literally has to be in someone's heart to say, I am going to step away from this model and invest my time towards something that I was with a company and I got trouble for doing something like this. Isaac, you should have had a list of all of the attendees. And what did you say there? Man, that's none of your business, bro. you ain't here. You know what I'm saying? And so it is it really has to be a passion because revenue is not generated in this space. But we see you as assets, and we also recognize the historical hamstring.
Yep.
We can go all the way back to the Freedmen's Bank in 1865.
Come on now. Come on now.
So there's a lot of tangible events that we've inherited, to Doc's point, that has created the way. Look at the banks, right? We talked about having money under a mattress. The black banks that were created, look at the names. Look how intentional they had to be in the names. Citizens trust the bank.
Yep.
Why we got to be that intentional, right? And so we can get into redlining. We can get into all of these events. And so there is a mindset, rightfully so, that our grandparents and parents inherited because of their circumstances. But I think as we look at the fact that at least 70 years, financial literacy has not been within school systems, within our households, regardless of color. And a lot of information that we utilize and execute is not what's taught. It's what's caught. It's what we can see. And so if you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to be around one, right? And so I think that as we identify the team over time, we have to also think about the void that we're feeling when we're no longer here. So we got to start having the conversation with folks that's in college and say, hey, bro, all right, you accountant? Hey, well, look, I need you to know this because I'm finna have a business, or you need to help someone with the business. Marketing, I need you to understand that, right? Legal framework, I ain't got nothing reading on that paperwork, but you do, right? So I need you to go to law school. Real estate, I need to identify property. So there's gonna be certain individuals, and I'll be honest, there's gonna be certain individuals that you probably that needs to be a part of your team that doesn't look like you. And that's okay, because you'll get the exposure and you'll get the steps to introduce that system to someone that does look like you.
For sure.
And then you can start building that pipeline of professionals. But it's a great question. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'll get into
go ahead,
it.
go
Michelle
ahead.
had a shoot.
I was going to just make a comment. You talked about where to start. And on a low level of how to start, if you will look at your bank, if you see someone of color that's working in the bank, that's a branch manager, start there. I used to be a branch manager at a bank. So start there. Just go in, talk with the branch and say, hey, I have a business, I want to talk with you. Wherever you have your business account, or if you're looking at opening an account, try to find somebody of color to start working with. Then they can give you some recommendations of the next, that's your first person on your money team, your banker.
That's right.
And getting your checking account, having just a business account is your first step to be in business. They're going to ask you, do you have some paperwork? If you don't, they can recommend. So I would say step one, start with your banker. That's your first person on your money team. Then when you were talking about insurance, find somebody who's in business and ask them, who is helping you with your books? Oh, I don't use anybody. Just keep asking business owners, who's helping you with your books? Who's this person? Ask questions of people that you see that are in business. Who do you have helping you? Who's your money team? I had to ask this a lot of people. I told you, I just found the unicorn. But I had to get there. I had to meet people. And then I wanted to say that in terms of referring and building business, I had to start working through stylists, hairstylists. Everybody named Mama trusts their hairstylist, their barber. A young man told me, well, my barber said he got an IRA. We were talking to a financial planner. And he said, yeah, my barber recommended I get an IRA. I said, did you just tell a financial planner that your barber? But that's what we listened to, and that sparked a thought in my head. I started working through barbers and beauticians to get out information. I said, okay, I'll pay for an event for you, and you bring the people in. And I brought the first-time home buyer seminar. I bought a realtor. I bought a mortgage person. I talked to them about insurance. But to convene them, I had to go through their hairstylist. And I thought, but you got to meet people where they are. So I think that that's something that we have to start looking at. So that's my.
I wanted to add to that really quick. That's such a good point. When you're thinking about your money team as well, and I'm gonna go through some different people you should have on your money team. But one thing that we tend to skip over a lot in our community is we go straight into trying to plan for the business without putting any energy into planning for personal. And I feel like a lot of us think we're going to miraculously be these amazing financially astute people once we get our LLC when the home front is falling apart. And I want to take this time to remind you, have you guys heard of Brene Brown? Is that, okay. Brene Brown has this book called Courageous Conversations. And many times I'll sit down and talk with people and they'll be like, my spouse is not getting on board financially. My parents don't want to talk about what they have or what's going on financially. My children won't listen to me. And I'll say, but do you listen to you? Have you had that courageous conversation with yourself? Have you started to financially put things in order for yourself? The reason people aren't listening to you around you is because they can see, they're like, well, why am I going to listen to you? Right? Like, why am I going to listen to you? So even when we're thinking of our money team, starting with you need to be a good captain on your money team, right? You need to understand where your strengths are, and just like Isaac said, outsourcing your ignorance, right? Getting some personal things in place. Also, too, we're always talking about level 1. I'm going to talk about a few levels higher up so that we start to have those conversations too. I think that's very important. Many times when I'm talking to clients, they're like, I'm the only one who's making this, so I don't know who else to speak to. I'm the only successful one in my family. I'm first generational to make this. I'm first generation to do this. And so going back and talking to family that has never seen the level of success you have, they're only giving you advice from that level. So let's talk about this a little bit. Who can you have on your financial team? An estate planning attorney is great, right? Especially understanding the laws of Alabama. Many times we feel like we are working hard and we're just going to pass down the house and we're just going to pass down the business just very easily. You feel like my last name is my child's last name, so of course it's theirs. Nope. State probate will scoot its way right into your situation. And some of you have dealt with that already, where you have seen, a grandmother or a parent work hard and no paperwork is in place, especially during the pandemic. The generational wealth and the wealth gap have increased by 3 times during these last few years because people didn't have paperwork in place to make sure. So having an estate planning attorney, having a CPA, very important for you, right? Once you start reaching a certain level, like I'm gonna call on you, right? Let's say you get into becoming a traveling nurse. I actually have a few clients who are traveling nurses right now that are making millions. So I'm gonna just plant that seed into your life right now, okay? The traveling nurses, because they were frontline and they were handling business. I have quite a few traveling nurses that are in their high-level 6 figures right now. First one in their family, first one to do these type of things. But having that in place is very important. So when you get to your 6 and 7 figures, then Uncle Sam pulls up to the table a little bit more, right? So taxes were annoying when you had your job and you were doing different things. Taxes were annoying. But wait till you get to where you get a tax statement that's a real deal scenario. And so you need someone on your team to help you mitigate taxes, right? Having a financial advisor is very important. You need someone to have things in place from your risk management side, right? So insulating yourself from the uncontrollables. No matter who you are that walks this earth, things are going to happen in your life, from health, death, taxes, inflation, longevity. Many people are outliving their money at this point. You have these things that'll transpire. Who's making sure that you're insulated from that? Then your wealth management side. Who's growing your money? A lot of us have our money just sitting in checking and savings. I'm going to ask you all right now, if you have a large sum of money sitting in checking and savings, how much did you make on that money?
0.01.
Right, 0.5%. The bank is not designed to make you grow that money. That's a transactional account for you. So you need to start having the right people around you. And I empower a lot of people doing things themselves, but many of us are not day traders by choice, right? Everyone on Instagram, I made this money doing this stock. Listen, on a daily basis, people walk into my office, they're like, Nicole, I done lost a lot of money doing this. because that's not your ministry. Right? It's not your ministry. You're looking at whoever, you're listening to whatever podcast and it's saying, go invest in this right now. But you don't understand the data behind that. You don't understand what's going into that. And also every investment is a risk. Are you in a good place to take those risks? Some person is investing and they have their entire emergency fund in place. They have all their foundational pieces. So if they take a loss, it's cool. They bounce back. Now you, on the other hand, that was your mama's money. That was tied to your house. You put your mortgage up, whatever that was. So if you take a loss, it is become life-changing for you. So even, keeping some of those things in mind are very important. But yes, with your money team, I'm gonna stay on track. Because I know Alicia like, all right, Nicole, I'm gonna stay on track. With your money team, having some of those key people in place is very important for you. And making sure that you vet those people. Yes, you might have gone to school with them. Yes, they go to your church. Yes, such and such loves them. But are they ready to do business at your level? That's right. Like where you're going with it, how it's transpiring. Is a lot of people that tell me their tax preparer only knows how to run the numbers. But you tell me that you're getting ready, that you're at a space where you want to buy your building. You're telling me that you're wanting to scale your practice to a national level. You're telling me that your beauty product, you want to get it into Target. You want to get it into Walmart. When you're sitting down at these tables, they're going to want to know strategy. They're going to need to see P&L statements. They're going to need high-level things. And you cannot be commingling your money, right? They cannot be looking at your statements and then you have your daycare on here for the business account. And I know she's over here like, yes, Lord. But understanding those things is very important.
That's right.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
We have had challenges for the past 2 years. A lot of business owners, even in our community, have received the economic injury disaster loan. And a lot of the funds have been used for survival. But if you can give a tip or two, what's a purchase that a business owner should consider that goes along with our theme that'll get them to the next step? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Even if it's $1,000 out of the 100,000 you got, what can they buy or invest in to get them to the next step? Or to, something different than what they're doing?
So that's a really good question. So to Lakeithia's point, there were federal resources during the pandemic that were released in two different buckets for business owners. You had the PPP, which was your Paycheck Protection Program, and don't give it away. I'm coming back to it because we got some folks, the life's changed for them. And then we have the EIDL, which you were referencing, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. The reason why I wanted to differentiate between the two is that the PPP, if you had your paperwork in place and you apply the right way, you have the ability to get that money forgiven. With the EIDL, there was a grant aspect up to $10,000, but a majority of the resources, if you qualified, it was essentially it's a loan, so you got to pay it back, right? So the reason why I wanted to differentiate the two is that one, is specifically for payroll, and you were able to get that forgiven. So it'll be tough to earmark dollars that you would need to reflect in regards of a statement to show that, hey, I don't need to pay that money back to invest it in something outside of the business. With the EIDL, you do have a little bit more flexibility, and I think to Doc's point, there's two levels of a foundation that we got to make sure that's in place. One, when it pertains to your personal planning, as she mentioned, 6 to 12 months of bill paying ability, saved up cash, that's your emergency fund, making sure that you have your protection products in place, disability insurance, life insurance. Then that second level is more of the offensive planning. Where can I put my dollars, 1 to 10 year time frame? There needs to be an understanding of what your priorities are in that capacity as an individual or a two-income household. Like that has to be highlighted before we can get into, all right, if we are going to use business resources, right, again, that we're going to have to pay back at some point for an investment, we want to make sure that everything is clear. Because at the end of the day, and I'm just going on piggyback on your question, then I'm going to answer it if it wasn't the EIDL. So if we are using that loan, we just got to know we're going to have to pay it back. So it needs to be towards something we know that's going to be a lot greater than the interest you're going to have to pay in that loan to ensure that it's a good use of your resources. Now, making an investment decision, right? So let's say we ran into a pot of money, $500, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000. I can keep going up for y'all. I'm gonna receive it all. $1 million, fell into it all. And you say, okay, I want to earmark that for a vehicle that I want to outpace inflation or make more money that's in my transactional account in regards of my checking or savings account. The first question that we ask is, when do you want to have access to your money? Then that's going to dictate how much money you're going to put towards this particular vehicle. If you say, I need this in the next 12 months, you don't need to even need to say the term invest. That's savings, right? But if there is a vehicle or if there is a time frame to where you say, I want to tie this to this 3-year goal, this 5-year goal, it is necessary that you sit down with a professional to make sure that they take into account your personal planning and your business priorities to ensure that that investment does not impact your ability to pay your overhead for your business or your month-to-month commitment for your household, right? So I know I'm not giving you a vehicle right now, but I wanted to at least talk through a process that we would need to go through from not only from a thinking, but also from a line item standpoint to ensure, because one thing with investing, you don't want to use your rent money. One thing when you talk about putting money into a vehicle that you could potentially lose, you want to make sure you understand it first. So biggest takeaway, and then I'll be quiet. Whenever you want to invest, educate before you allocate. Educate before you allocate.
There you go. That was good. That was really good. So I just kind of want to wrap up most of that stuff that y'all said with a bow. We talked about the money team. So your banker, right? Where are you banking? Where's your business checking account? Find somebody there that you can trust. But then also estate planning, because that protects everything that you're creating. It's okay to have an accountant. It's okay to have a CPA as you continue to increase. And be okay that sometimes the goal is to find people that look like you, but sometimes that might not be the case. But don't be deterred by that, because again, we can be exposed to information that we can then share and disseminate with our communities, and it's a relationship building thing, right? Because the goal is to get into other rooms, to be exposed, and to bring that back to people who need that information. So I appreciate that, and then educate before you allocate. So make sure before you moving that money around, you know where it's going, what you're doing, and what the ROI is, and make sure that you have the capacity to take certain risks. Eventually you'll get there, but make sure that we're kind of thinking smart. So as we wrap the conversation up, I just wanted to talk about a few tools for wealth building, right? We talked about generational wealth, so we know it's a mindset thing. It's having to crack away from scarcity to abundance, realizing that there is nothing outside of our reach, outside of our grasp. There is always more than enough. Right, so we tackled that. We tackled the money team question. And so now, what are some tools and resources? We know one thing is life insurance and insurance. And I don't think sometimes people know how to use insurance. It can actually be a tool, right? And so, Isaac, if you can start with just sharing some tools that you think, and then we'll kick it off to you, Nicole. And if anybody has any questions, we'll take them, and then we'll wrap it up.
Cool. All right, so one thing about building wealth, you got to make sure that we hit all the aspects of it. So I'm going to start with credit. So if you want to make sure that, one, you got to make sure you know what your credit is. That's a grown folks version of your GPA, right? So we got to peek at that. So there's a few tools. Of course, Credit Karma, Credit Wise, which is Capital One, that is a free tool. You download that right now, check it out, make sure you can see what's on there. Less about what your credit score is, more about what is reflecting on your credit report, right? Second tool is if you're renting. All right, Isaac, I'm looking to build my credit. Rent Reporters, rentreporters.com. So if you have a good relationship with your landlord, let them know that you're signing up. They'll get a notification every time you pay rent. It's going to reflect. We've seen clients' credit go up 40 to 60 points within a month. Third tool, I don't want to get into the difference between a secured card and an unsecured card, but there is a platform called Self Inc., I believe. You can download that as well. Ultimately, you can start as low as $25 a month as a commitment to start building your credit. It reports to all 3 credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. All right, so credit, and I'm just going to hit just investments. So, and again, I'm educational tools, right? Educate before you allocate. Investopedia is a free platform you can subscribe to. You get terms every single morning. So you get the term of the day. You can go in there. Well, this is what I love about it. Isaac, I want to get into investing. I don't necessarily know where to start. There's a simulator on there. So you can use fake money, invite your friends. Say, hey, look, let's do this every month. Get together every week. I'm gonna pick some stocks. You get some stocks. We're gonna see who's doing the best, right? But now you can dip your foot in the pool without essentially getting your foot wet, right? And so it gives you the ability to test that out. The budgeting, of course, we know Mint.com. In my opinion, I think the freshest budget before you go grab a tool or a platform, pull the last 2 months of your statements. Get a highlighter, highlight what's useful, and don't highlight what's useless.
That's good.
And then you'll know what you want to carry for those next couple of months, right? So budgeting standpoint, so I'm just going with tools. So we got credit, we got that, we got investing, we got budgeting. And then outside of that, I think the biggest thing from a tool standpoint is that there is no tool greater that we can say there's no investment, there's no business that's greater than what you can provide for yourself, right? So we can provide the exposure to the tools and we can provide the education on how to use it. But it's going to be up to you to execute, right? So we can't steer a parked car. And so I'll just stop there, and if anything else pops up, I'll be sure to add.
No, that's good.
Thank you.
Adding to that, I feel like it's important for you to first start with what your why is, because you're going to get distracted by a bunch of different things on your financial planning journey. You have to have a strong GPS that holds you, because every person in finance you meet is going to say something different. So if you have a very strong why, that's going to be your main driver. And then you'll start to attract individuals that can help you move forward in alignment with your why. I'm going to say second, getting very clear on your cash flow, just like what Isaac said. App that I love is Truebill, because it's intuitive. It will say, I'm going to just call on you Michelle, because you're smiling and you're right in front of me. It's going to tell you, Michelle, you are getting ready to spend 3 times as much on Amazon Prime or Target that you spent last month. And many times people will tell me what their expenses are, and as soon as they connect the Truebill, I'll be like, okay, now we know what your true expenses are, right? So leaning into what your cash flow is. I'm going to say your insurances are a very big part. When we talk about insulating yourself, it's not the sexy part of financial planning. Like, people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Many times when you see people going through hardship in their life, it's because they didn't have something in place to protect them. With their business, if your business was vandalized, it would be no problem if you had insurance, right? You just call the company, you get what you need back, you replace it. It is a problem when you don't have insurance. It is not a problem if you get into an accident with your car if you have insurance. The problem is when your insurance just lapsed and you know it, and you get out the car like, I ain't got nothing for you. Like,
You may not even get out the car.
you might drive off. Exactly. When it comes to health has it's Murphy's Law, right? When everything is going well, that's sometimes when health wants to kick in and show its other side. When you have proper things in place, it's not a problem. When you don't, and you got to figure out how to come out of pocket, that's when you use your whole entire savings. That's when you got to start reaching out to people. That's when you got to start selling things. So understanding how to have the right insurances. When it comes to life insurance, so many of us tend to not to skip over that part for some reason. But as we saw during the pandemic, the GoFundMe accounts, the people trying to figure out how, not realizing that is a great way of how you can set your family up, and protect your loved ones. So having life insurance. But let me tell you one thing we don't talk about too, locking in your insurability young in life. And you said you're in college. I wish somebody would have told me, when I was young, lock in insurance while everything is good. Because the thing of the nature is there's many individuals who are 40 and 50 that I'm talking to. And at that point, you get it. You're like, okay, yeah, of course I need it. Because you start to think of future in life. But something has happened that they can't get insurance anymore. They've dealt with a terminal disease. They've had some mental health issues by that point. They've had some other things that transpire just as you get older. So if you can lock it in while you can, that's number one. Also, too, understanding life insurance as a wealth building tool. What's the first thing you think of when you think of insurance? Death.
Death, yeah.
Right, and what's one thing we don't talk about in our community? Death. right? Your grandma, oh, you trying to wish me for dead, but there's a whole nother side to insurance, right? Understanding permanent life insurance, how that can be a tool for you, how you could build cash value in that type of tool, how that might be a tax exempt option for you. It's not for everyone though. And you shouldn't, and if someone is pushing you into a tool that doesn't make sense to your life, then you should understand that too. But for many of us to understand how to utilize it and when is the right time to utilize it is very important. Understanding the purpose of a brokerage account. We know it's not good to have all our money in checking and savings, but we don't know what other vehicles to put it in. That's when we talk about a brokerage account, right? At least having your money in a place where it outpaces taxation and inflation. Understanding that, right? And also too, what Isaac was saying, being able to test your skills in the market, I think is very important. But then also knowing thyself. If you don't really pay attention to this stuff, if this is really not something you're really into, having that real moment to be like, I'm just going to outsource this part. I'm going to get a team around me that can handle that part. Because I'm going to give an example, like Facebook ads and social media ads. It's not my ministry. These things change every single day. So me to get on and drop $300 on a Facebook ad, and I have not been studying it. I don't know what the market is performing. I don't know the algorithm right now. I don't know what's working. I just threw $300 to the wind. So many times we have to be honest with ourselves. Are we truly into this? Or do we need to have the right people around that can make the decisions and help us with that? But they should be educating you along the way. So those are some tools.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Before we go,
Yes.
pay your bills. The first thing you do is pay your bills on time. And I think that's something that you guys got to realize. A lot of times, it's almost an assumption that black people have bad credit. I mean, when you go somewhere and you talk to people, you just talk to them like they have bad credit automatically. And we've got to get past that. It's got to be, my son, he's got the little nappy dreads and everything. He's 27. He has a 757 credit score. That's not by accident. We purposely made sure that he started out that way. And I holler at him. I said, listen, that was purpose. We started when you were 14 on a credit card, signing and getting you prepared for this. But people assume. He said, well, Mama, they asked me, did I want to get it? I said, say no. You know you can get a credit card. No, you don't want to. So pay your bills on time. Don't be late. Don't miss it. It's just $10. Pay $10.
That's a part of generational wealth too.
Yes.
Not just passing down the money, but passing down the mindset.
Right.
You were very intentional with your son. He's not where he is just by choice or by luck. Mom was very intentional on sitting down and helping him understand that. And that's a problem that I see happen. Many times we're like, oh, you're 18, go figure out life. No. What's happening at these dinner tables and other communities from birth? These conversations are happening from birth. They're having trust conversations at the dinner table. They have financial offices. They're talking about the financial mission. They're talking about how we're utilized. There's a book called What Would the Rockefellers Do? I would love for you guys just to start with that book. Sometimes I have clients that say they're doing very well now, but they didn't grow up with that mindset. How do they help their children, right? Like how do you, if you grew up from survival mindset, how do you help your children? You expose them. These type of events, when I do these type of events, I say, bring your children to these events. When I do financial planning meetings, I'll be like, your child is in high school. Trust me, they know what we're talking about. You'd be surprised that they know what we're talking about. Bring them on one of these calls. Do not just send them out of your house and feel like they're going to get this knowledge. They're going to get it so broken up that they don't understand the bigger picture. So give yourself a pat on the back. Your son has a 756 credit score because mom was very intentional, right? But then also when I say know thyself, if you are mom and you're going to ruin their credit, don't put yourself on that day too. We give this information and this advice, but then we go back and ruin our children before they even have a chance to start too. So that's a way to do things if you are yes. If not, you can tell your children about it, but we're not gonna mix your name with their name if you're gonna put them 10 steps back before they even get a chance to make their first decision.
Do you mind if I share a quick story?
Sure.
I just want to connect So 10 years ago, this story is actually why I got into the financial industry. And again, if it was up to me, I'll still be playing football, but injuries cut that short. So I sat down with a couple. I'm early on in the industry, probably about 6 months. And again, I'm the only black in the state of Alabama with this company, and it's actually the #1 office in the country, right? So I'm sitting down with a young couple, and they teach us how to walk through this conversation. And the young lady was about to graduate college, and her fiance he's been working for a couple of years. So this is our first time meeting, and I'm going through our questions. Hey, I see you're about to graduate. What's your thoughts on purchasing a home? He said, Isaac, we actually just went through that process. We closed on our house 2 weeks ago. I said, fantastic. How much is a house worth? He said, $250,000. I said, is it safe to say that since you bought it 2 weeks ago, that's what you owe? He said, no, we pay cash for it. But now look, I gotta stay cool, right? So I'm like, okay. So I said, all right, what about vehicles? Are you guys thinking about, purchasing vehicles at some point? He said, oh yeah, we actually did that a couple of weeks ago as well. $50,000, we bought 2 vehicles. I was like, all right, 25. He said, no, 50,000 each. Is it safe to say, since you purchased this a couple of weeks ago, that this is the balance of what you owe? He said, no, we paid cash for that as well. So income is like the next page. So I hit the page, I'm like, all right, I don't even know how I'm gonna ask the question. You know what I'm saying? So I said, how well do you see your income going this year? I was nervous to see how he was gonna react. He sat back, I will never forget this, and he scratched his chin. It was the longest 4 seconds. I'm like, what you about to say? He said, it'll be a good year. I said, yes, it will. I'll make probably about $48,000. I said, a month? He said, no, this year with the bonus. I said, bro, if you don't mind me asking, where did you get the cash to allocate towards these assets? He said, oh, man, I forgot to tell you. When my granddad passed away,
Okay.
through a life insurance policy, that through the trust, all I had to do was graduate college. And I got X. And the reason why I'm here today, he hit me with a comma. The reason why I'm here today is to make sure I do the same for my grandkids. He was 25 years old. Difference between him and us was melanin count, right? But he was exposed to something. So I think that as people, and again, going back to what did you inherit, we may not have had the opportunity to inherit the resources and the assets of our counterparts, but we are now responsible because we just had this conversation as a unit to make sure that we implement the infrastructure to make sure that our offspring can know us by first and last name, right? Because if you ask folks, who's your great grandparent? But if they left you something, John Jackson, hey, let me tell you about him. Hey, let me show you some pictures, right? They gonna know, great grandson gonna know about me, right? And I think we have to, even as business owners, and I know this is for entrepreneurs, as small business owners, we have to think that way with our service, with our product, with the experience, and make sure that we have the money team around us to ensure that level and that standard is not deteriorated based off of the condition, based off the market, based off the season. So that's all I got.
Well, amen to that. That's a benediction right there. That's a benediction. I thank you again, Isaac and Nicole, for coming, for having this conversation. I thank you all for coming, for asking questions, for being engaged. And I hope that something was said today that sparked something in you, a seed was planted. And so I definitely want to make sure that you all connect with them, get their get their contact information, because I know Nicole has some different resources and tools. Isaac has some different resources and tools. When we talk about your money team, these are two people who can be a part of it. These two people, black man, black woman, sitting right in front of you, vetted, right? You know what I mean? Character and integrity right here. So these are two building blocks to your money team. So y'all please get connected to them. Yes, ma'am.
So you spoke about sales and you spoke about Seville. Is that for personal credit or business credit?
Yeah, so what I mentioned was for personal credit. I think the strategy in building business credit is a little bit more, there's a little bit more steps that we see online in regards of just get you a Duns and Bradstreet number and you good, and so definitely want to apply that towards a strategy. So what I was mentioning was for personal credit, and typically whenever there's some funding that you're looking to acquire through a financial institution, your personal credit is going to play a role. And so we want to make sure that's in a good spot.
Alicia, I'm gonna give out my contact information
for
really
sure.
quickly. So if you guys can take out your phones, I'm gonna have you text me so I can follow back up with you in regards to this. So phone number is 404-919-5441. 404-919-5441. And just text me your name. And then I'll follow back up with you in regards to any conversations left off from here. Also, how many of you are on Insta? Yep, I sure can. 404-919-5441. And just text me your name. And then how many of you are on Instagram? Okay, so keep your phones out. I want you to just grab a photo really quickly, open up your Instagram apps, you could do a selfie, you can grab a photo of the panel, you could grab a photo of Alicia, whatever that
The
is.
balloons back there, they say SBW.
The balloons, the sign, whatever that is. So grab your phones, take a picture really quickly. And I want you to tag, the hashtag is SBW22, right? So hashtag SBW2022. And then you're gonna tag us. So my Instagram is at Dr. Garner Scott, DrGarner Scott, SCOTT. Yep, DrGarner Scott. So that's at Dr. Garner Scott. And then Isaac, what's your Instagram?
Planning, PLANNING. We got 2 underscores
Okay.
and then 22.
Oh, we fancy. We fancy.
Talk to me.
And then Alicia, what's your Instagram?
At A levels, kept it easy. A levels, ALVS.
Yes. So you guys are grabbing a photo. We're doing this in real time. You're tagging at Dr. Garner Scott, at planning _22, and at A levels. We're going to see your Instagram post and whatnot, and so I'll be giving away a free copy of my book. It's called Confidence, to those that are posting. I know Isaac has some good giveaways under his, and basically Alicia gave y'all these drinks, so that was her. That was her contribution. Also, I'm going to challenge you. If there was a nugget, many times we're always looking for the people on the stage to be able to give the information. But now all of you got information tonight. So whatever your nugget was that you learned tonight, it's important that you're taking this back to your community, to your home, to your friends. So I want you to post, what was that nugget that you learned? What was that light bulb moment, that game changer moment, whatever that was, I want you to post that some point tonight and tag us and use the hashtag. That's going to help start the spark of conversation amongst you in your household and your community. So that's very important too.
Yep.
So looking forward to staying in contact with you. When you text me, I'll reach out about any of your financial planning questions. Isaac, did you want to give your information on how they stay in contact?
Yeah, you could hit our website, planning, PLANNING, IMC.com, and you'll get straight to us. Another way to stay in tune with the content that we're pushing out is the Planning Podcast. We are on all platforms. You can check us out on YouTube as well. I'll be honest, our private clients were probably taking in about 2 or 3 by the, it's a great thing. Business is, going well. But we do have a team of professionals that we can send you to if you got any additional questions. But if you hit our website, that'll take you to our calendar, merchandise, all that good jazz.
Awesome. And so I feel like a pastor, because we keep talking about this last close. We done had about 5 of them. But before we wrap up, when we talk about highlighting small business owners, Danielle, she introduced herself and she made mention that she's just getting started to her event decor business. Well, she provided the event decor for tonight. So can we give her a round of applause? And so,
Beautiful job.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we constantly highlight people like we talked about earlier, shouting out folks we know that are doing things. So thank you, Danielle. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Nicole. And we appreciate you all. And you all have an amazing night and happy Cinco de Mayo. Go get some of the margaritas.
Yeah,
Get on that table.
All right. Buenas noches.